Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kim Schmidt, Executive Editor of Farm Equipment Magazine. Welcome to our latest webinar in conjunction with the Western Equipment Dealers Association, the 2020 Wholegoods Wrap Up. Today's presenter is Trent Hummel, a former dealer and lead management consultant and trainer for Wholegoods Dealer Institute. Trent provides on-site dealership training and conducts courses to improve inventory management and business operations. Before we get started with the presentation, just a couple housekeeping items. On your control panel, there's a Q&A icon. You can submit questions here at any time during the presentation, and we will try to answer as many of those as we can once Trent has gone through everything. And then if for any reason your internet connection is interrupted and it looks like the webinar has been interrupted, just go back to the email you received earlier and you can re-enter that way. All right, we are ready to get started. Thanks again for joining us, and you can take it away, Trent.
Okay, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. And I just really want to thank, since 2019, we had 6 dealers approach the association and ask us about designing more data and different ways that we can assess in the industry how much we should sell, how much is being sold used, and how much is being sold new. Well, new is easy, but the used is what we don't know, and how much can the market absorb. So we did that inventory study at the end of 2019, and we had some great success with that. We understood a lot of things, but since then, there's been a lot more organizations, and I don't mean dealerships, but you'll see through the different people that are submitting stuff to us that we can work that in to start to understand how much used is being sold in the market, so we all know what's going on and what our levels are for how many new we should sell as compared to used and so forth. So I want to thank those guys for sending that to me, because it's been very helpful for us to start working on this for you people. Now, this is all coming from the Cost of Doing Business 2020 study. And I just want to say, when you're looking at this, 2020 is when the study was done, but it's all data from you guys from 2019. So when you're looking at 2020 on the screen, it's really 19, the year 19 and so forth. But you can see we're just about neck and neck, used and new, not much changing there. But I can tell you right now, I don't know what your target turnover is, but for a lot of guys, it's got to be a lot more than this in order to cash flow your store. I know you're probably cash flow in 2020 because it's a great year, but on the poorer years, these numbers weren't working for you. Now, I know if you're selling under 100 horse tractors, 2 turns maybe is all you're going to get, the way you have to order inventory and sit on, but your trades, your used stuff that you get on that stuff can easily turn 7, 8, 9, 10 times a year, because that a 30 horse and 80 horse tractor, it can sell so fast online that, you know, it's in and out in 2 days. But I don't know what your target is, but you should be watching that. Now, this is another one that what I did with the Cost of Doing Business study that we presented here 2 months ago, I believe. We don't get into the whole goods much because it's so, we're doing the whole business. So when I look at this, I hope that doesn't go, Kim. I got internet connection unstable. There, it went away. When I look at this gross margin, you know, it's so easy to tell that, you know, the new is up there at 6 or 7, and then the used is down at 2, 3, 5. But over here, it's always 5.3, 6. You can see that. When I started doing this job 10 years ago, it was 5.4. It hasn't changed at all. But what is really defining here is the more that we up our new gross margin, the more comes down the used, because it always just gets stuck between 5 and 6. So for those dealers that say I'm making 8 or 9 on the front end and I'll make 8 or 9 on the trades, I hope you are, but there's a whole bunch of us that aren't, because it's really showing up here. I mean, and we always say, all of us say in this industry, we should show more gross margin on used than we should on new, but we're not doing that at all. But I just wanted to see the balance here, that as soon as your new goes up, your used goes down, but you're always going to end up right here. Now, I hope that goes up someday too, because that's not very good. Now, if you were selling under 100 horse tractors, you'd be puking your guts out right now, because you can't survive on that. You don't have enough dollars in your deals. That 5% gross margin is going to make your store profitable. Cost of doing business from the under 25. Now, this is all North America, just so we know. And I wanted to compare the turnover to the margin, what the store is getting for gross margin. And you can see here, the under $25 million stores, they're getting 1.4 turns on their new iron, getting 10%, and that's great. And then you go over here to the over 75 million, they're getting 2.4 turns, but their margin is cut in half. Now, is there some difference between how much big iron these guys are selling? Yeah, we can't decipher that out of the report that we get. But we do know from past cost of doing business studies that Kurt and I have done the last 2 years that these large complexes are really getting a good handle on their inventories for the most part. And they're really watching that turnover rate and making sure that goes up. And I know they're doing it at the sacrifice of margin because they just know that cash is king, and they're gonna put turn in front of margin. And you can see it shows up right here. Last year, 2019 cost of doing business study, we were really concerned with these guys, this middle group, not having enough cash because of the way they were doing business. Their turns aren't so high and their margin is strong, but their turns are low. So they were backed up in inventory, and that was a concern. Now, hopefully everybody's got that cleaned up this year because it looked a lot better. But this was a pretty good chart to look at to see where the turns for the categories are with new and used and over the years, what's going on. Okay, so I really broke this down, and Gord Thompson and I spent a little time on this. And there's some estimations in here because we have to try to decipher what the cost of doing business report is telling us. But obviously, salaries, whole goods salaries and commissions and wages as a percent of whole goods dollars, we want it to be under 40%. And we're up here close to 60, 55, 60%. And you can see this is floor plan interest as a percent. So some of you guys that work in Spader hear available income, they call it AI, available income with the Spader groups. Same thing. How much of your gross margin dollars are you using to pay this expense? Floor plan interest, they're using 16, 10, 11, 14%. Advertising and demo. These three items at the top are the three most expensive items in the whole goods department, and they should be under 50% because there's still a lot of other expenses that the whole goods department has got to cover. And so we don't want these three items to be higher than 57%. And you can see in these numbers, we're a heck of a lot higher, up to 80, almost 88, 87%. We've got to get this one down. Now, my estimations, and Gordon and I talked about this, we could be off by 2 percentage points here. We could be off by 2 here because there were some estimations. But even if we're off by 4 over here, we're still a heck of a lot higher than 57%. Now, I do want to say this about floor plan interest. Guys are saying, oh, our interest was a lot less in 2019. Yeah, that's because we had a lot of paid inventory. This is 2018 numbers, 19 study. There's a lot of paid inventory, and dealers aren't charging themselves and they're not charging the department an imputed interest on the inventory that they're carrying. So yeah, their interest rates are down, but they're using the store's capital to pay for all that stuff sitting out in the yard. That's what they've done. So no, whole goods inventories is a percent of assets. I haven't really looked at this that much until I started maybe in the last year to see what's going on. And I've heard this multiple times that dealers like to have about $5 million in inventory on a yard for an average size yard for location. And it looks like we're not far off from being there. $4 or $5 million seems like the right mix. Now, is it better to have more new than used on the yard? Yeah, we want to turn our used faster because the new is easy to get. Although this year, maybe orders aren't going to be coming in as good as they were because of COVID. But this was more the number. The target under 65% of your total assets shouldn't be, just in whole goods. And we've only had 1 year in the last 6 years that's under 65%. So we've been whole goods has been stocking up a lot of, using a lot of our money in a dealership for their assets. They're just not turning them out, or they're stocking too much. They're not turning them fast enough. They're not pre-selling enough. I don't know what it is, but for some of you guys, this is a number that I'm sure that you're all watching. But just so you know that there is a target in the industry that we don't talk about that we should talk about a lot more. Okay, here's the retails, new and combines and 4-wheel drive retails. So I track this. These are new 4-wheel drives down to, I can only get to the end of November 2020, but you can see, the highest year was for the US was 6,900. Canada was the same in 2012. And by 2016, our new retails had dropped. In the US dropped to 67%, and Canada had dropped by 48. And I've talked to my dad all the time about this. I can't figure it out. Why does the US dealers react more than the Canadian dealers? It happens all the time. It's happened since he started in 75. They're just more quicker to react and really pull back their new sales more than the Canadians do. And you'll even see it on the combines, and it happens all the time. It's happened for decades like this. Now, 3,100 units sold. Canada's selling 14% of that. Canada should never sell more than 20 because they have about 24% of the land, the farmable land in North America, but they shouldn't sell 24% because the way the Western Canadian farmer farms is great big giant acres. So really 20% of the units is plenty, and they're at 14. So that tells me dealers are behaving themselves. They're not selling a lot of 4-wheel drives. I'm sure they're sold right out and they're out pre-selling right now and probably doing a great job at getting pre-sale orders on 4-wheel drives if you can get them. I mean, I hope we can all get them. So we'll get into combines now, and you can see the US from the high of 2013 dropped 63%. The high of Canada dropped only 39%. And I don't know why. It just happens all the time. Now combined, we're at 5,800 units, and that's not counting December, which we got one more month to count. So this number is going to go above 6,000. I'll guarantee it. The Canadians are selling that 22%, which makes sense because Canada sells about that much, and that's a good healthy number for Canadians. You can see where they were way up, getting closer to 30 and above 30 in these years. And this is where the Canadians were really loading up with used inventory. And for the Americans that say it doesn't matter to me what the Canadians do, you should ask the American dealers that live along the Canadian border. It matters to Minnesota and North Dakota what the Canadians have for inventory because it's crossing the line if the exchange rate is favorable. Now this ratio, I mean, I used to watch this only North America, and it was always about 50%. I knew that was healthy. So for every 2 combines that are sold in North America, there should be 1 4-wheel drive. Prior to 1999, it was 1-to-1. But after 99, 2000, I call it the dark ages because that was a bad time. That's exactly what just happened in 2016, 15, and 16. But it should have been, it's now 2-to-1, 2 combines to 1 4-wheel drive. But after the study last fall, then I broke it apart and I wanted to measure it between US and Canada. And it's a distinctive difference here, especially in these years where we get down in the last 5 years, 4 years. The Canadians don't need to buy as many 4-wheel drives. And I know I was a dealer and I know I could sell 12 new combines at one location and 4 4-wheel drives. And that seemed to be about all I could get for 4-wheel drive sales. We just don't use them that much. They go out for seeding, they go back in the shed. And maybe if they got a shaft on, they'll go out and pull a grain cart and maybe they won't, but they just don't get used. They're not like a high clearance sprayer that's going over the land 4 or 5 times a year. So the US will always sell more just because the way that they farm and the way the Canadians farm. But I watch this metric and we're kind of pretty healthy right here. So 54% is a North American average. Now this is one I took, used iron. This is combines, 4-wheel drives. I took the average of 16, 17, 18, and 19. I didn't use 20 because we haven't finished up 2020 yet. But we're averaging 3,400 4-wheel drives new in North America. And based on the study, the data that you guys provided us a year ago on that inventory study, you have to sell 2.5 used 4-wheel drives for every new one. So that means you got to sell 8,500 4-wheel drives a year, used 4-wheel drives. And it seems like it's possible and you can wash out of that. Okay. Within the 12 months, the combines now 6,300 and you got to take almost one more full trade on that. So you're taking 3.3 trades. So you got 21,000. North America's got 21,000 combines to wash out of versus only 8,500 4-wheel drives. You're wondering why the combines back up and the 4-wheel drives don't. It's right here, guys. We're selling too many new ones. If we had this number down to where the 4-wheel drives are, we would have 8,500 to say we'd be short. The market would be short. I mean, we'd be shorting ourselves. But we're also taking an extra layer of trades in here too. And now I know when the economy gets tight, the trade differences guys aren't walking in with 170 grand, they're walking in with 70 grand. So this number actually goes up higher. It becomes 4.3 or 5.3 trades in those tougher years because you have to work through so many guys to get down to be washed out of a deal. So that number even grows. But based on new unit sales, we'll have to retail 21,000 units on average in these years, and it looked like 2020 is going to be about the same. And remember this 21,000 because it's a little important coming up here. Now, from the inventory study, this was something that we asked, what's your ability to absorb the used equipment that you're going to have to take from the amount of new iron that the OEM expects you to sell? And there is 3/4 of you have indicated that there is no way we can sell as much used iron is going to be generated off what the OEM expects us to sell for new. So just with all my heart, I want you guys to really watch how much you sell new, because I don't want you to get in trouble on used again. Keep that under check. Know what your used market is. Know how many units you sell on our, how many combines, used combines do you sell in a year average? Divide it by how many trades you normally have to take under a new sale, and that's how many new combines you can sell. I was just talking to a dealer the other day who he has a one location that he will only let them sell 6 new combines, and he's got 6 pre-sales. He's got 20 other customers lined up to buy new ones, but he says, sorry, we've sold our 6. We've got 20 trays to sell underneath those 6, and that's what we're going to sell. And that's all we can sell is 20 units out of that place. So we're not going to do more than 6 new units. And I'm sure the manufacturer is just wild at him, but what can he do? He can't sell more new than what his market will absorb the used. Okay, and this is something I started after the study last fall. I wanted to start breaking down to see how many used combines are we really being advertised out there, where we're at. So we'll get it. You can see how I've broken it down by all these different things on the screen here. Whoop, I went the wrong way. So the US is in blue and Canada is in red. And you can see this is the model years of the combines. And in August, for the 17s, 18s, 19, and 20 model years, there was 1,800 of them advertised in the US. And by November, October, we were down to 1,600, and then November, 1,700. So we were doing we got rid of some stuff. We moved some iron and we're loading up. I hope this reload of stuff is a fresh trades that are coming off pre-sales, and not just stuff that got pushed in the backyard and forgot to advertised, or we forgot to advertise it. So you can see here how this is changing. I mean, we did very good in October. We got ourselves way down, 8,200 down to 7,600, 7,300. Let's keep that number down low. Let's keep that iron turning out of there and don't take too many trades. Canadians are the same way. They didn't drop as much, but they did okay. 2,400 they had, and they got down to 2,000 units still advertised in all of Canada. Now, the problem is there's going to be trades on trades. And you can see here clearly where the loads are. That 2010 to 2016, which I wanted to put them in a grouping because that 2010, 11, 12, and 13, and part of 14 were very good years. 15 and 16 were dud years. So there's not very much tally there. So I just left it in that grouping. But there's a lot of you guys that complain that we have too much volume in these years for the buyers. And you can see that. I mean, right here, clear as day. There's just so many more of those model years being sold. And that happened, guys. 96, 97, 98 was exactly the same thing. We had in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, we had all kinds of trades of those model years. 99 and 2000, there was hardly one. You never found one because there were so few combines sold in that 99, 2000 year that there wasn't any that would show up on trade. So this is where the real chart is. That other chart prior to this was where I get data from. But you can see here, now AGCO case clause, this is not by dealer, this is by brand. It could be that all these case combines are sitting on John Deere dealers' lots. I have no idea, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to spend the time. That'd be forever doing that. So this is US, this is December 1st. What this means is AGCO had 32 combines advertised in the US that were model year 17, 18, 19, and 20. And this 3 below here means that from the month prior, November 1st, that number has gone up 3. So last month it was 29. It's not gone down, it's gone up. And this 7% is of the 100% of AGCO combines, 7% of them are in these model years. 36% of them are here, 26% are in these model years, and so forth. So you can see that. Now look they got rid of some old ones, some 1990 to 99, some old stuff. They dropped from 84 down to 7. That's good. And it's good that we're seeing negatives in all this stuff. Obviously, I'm looking at some case dealers here. They added 31 units. I'm just betting that they did some pre-sales and added some units. Look at John Deere, it's 243. This makes total sense because John Deere's year end is October 31st, and a lot of dealers push to do deals then. So in the month of November, they would have all these pre-sales that they did on October 31st. They're going to load those trades up. So their trades are, their number is going to go up in the month of November. I'm going to back that up. So it shows up. Now I have every reason to believe that Case in New Holland, their CNH, their year end is November 30th, and there's a big push to get those pre-sales done before November 30th for the manufacturer's year end, even though a pre-sale doesn't do anything for year end because it's got to be until there's money change hand, there's nothing happen. But I think Case will get their stuff loaded soon too, and along with all the other dealers. But there's so much of this in here. I look at Claus, 60%, 62%, 2/3 of their units are in this group of model year. I can just pick data out of here like crazy. I go up here to AGCO again, and not picking on AGCO, but look at the percent. When you add these last columns together, you got 30 and 20, so you got 56% of AGCO's combines are in the older category that are being advertised. Is that good or bad? I don't know. That means that they're not worth a whole bunch of money, so they're not tied. Do they have buyers for them? Maybe they don't have buyers for them. I don't know. But you can just, if you get this, I can break this down by state too. You get this going by your state, and then you got one of these, let's say you got a clause that you potentially going to take on trade, and you can look and say, ooh, there's a lot of clauses out in my market, in my province or my state. Maybe I got to be a little careful. I should phone a clause dealer and see what's going on with that. Why are they backed up? Maybe they're that hot. Maybe they're that not. Maybe they're stalled. Don't know. But you can really make some good decisions on what's going on in your market when you get it. By the whole country, it doesn't work. You need it by state or province. So down here at the bottom, I want to say there were 7,500 combines. I always adjust for the US. I add 25%. So there's really 9,400 because not every combine I know is being advertised on where I get this data from. Now, my good buddy Casey Seymour and Tim at Citibank in New Jersey have said, why don't you just, instead of taking a multiple of 25, why don't you say on these newer models, maybe there's going to be 3 trades, and off this column there's only 2 trades, and off this column there's only 1 trade, and these columns there's no trade. And I could do that, and it wouldn't be that hard, but I don't think we'd come up with a number much different than this anyways. So here's the Canadian one. You can see they're down at 2,500 units being advertised right now. Now for the Canadians, I put a 50% additive. You can adjust this however you want, but I think with the Canadian exchange rate and where I get this, it's very expensive for the Canadians to advertise in the US and tractor or use Tractor House. That's where the data comes from. But so if 50% of the units aren't being advertised, there's 3,800 used combines to sell in Western Canada. So you can take it for that. Now, what this indicates over here is percent of total. So the John Deere dealers have 42, or the John Deere combines are 42% of the used being advertised, and the Case are 31. So right there, those two groups alone have 73% of the advertised combines. 2 different manufacturers. Doesn't mean that they're all on Case or John Deere lots. Just that's what the market, and you got to be aware of that because your Case buyers are, if you don't have enough of them, you're going to be stuck with some iron. Now I pulled this from Iron Solutions. This was a great chart they come up with. They sent it out about a year ago or so. And look at these, the gray areas are class 4, 5, and 6, and they're way down. This is the volume of sales. This is the volume of stuff that's actually being retailed. So you can see there's not much being sold. It's 1/3 of the units are these small classic combines. Now, I don't even hardly know anybody that brings in a small classic combine anymore. Any dealer that does, even if a manufacturer makes it, I don't know if they bring it in. So there's a lot less of them showing up. And of course, these old class 4, 5s, and 6s, they're getting to be up in 3,000 and 4,000 hours. So they're not worth anything. The farmer just keeps it as his backup machine or a second machine. So they're not coming on trade because they're not worth a dime. But I do like to look at this because I've heard a lot of dealers asking me about this John Deere 9X and class 10 machine, these big 10s. What's going to happen? Is there always going to be a buyer? Well, we probably said the same thing about class 8s back here in 2004 and 2005. And look where that purple line went. I mean, it grew over the last 15 years. So is there going to be is this going to grow? Looking at this chart, it's just going to continue to grow and grow. The machines are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, are we going to do business differently to manage that? Sure. Have we changed in 15 years? Have we changed the way we're doing business because the classes have gotten so big? Sure, it has. So I'm not saying that we're going to do it exactly the same when we start selling class 9s and 10s as our number one machines, but it's going to be, we're going to do business different, but this is going to grow. It's just continually going to grow. Okay, so from the current listings, the US had 7,500, Canada had 25. There's a total of 10,000 machines being listed. Now 1.65 trades, I'm estimating 1.65 trades have to be sold underneath each listing that's already there. So there's already a listing of 10,000 and they're going to be 1.65 gives you 16,000 units. There's 26,000 units that need to be retailed to wash out of what's on the currently being advertised right now. Now, this lower number here is using that additive. Of course, with the Americans, I used the 25%. The Canadians, I use 50%. So there could be 13,000 machines. They're just not all being advertised, but there could be 13,000 machines on the ground. And if they each need 1.65 trades to be taken underneath them in order to get washed out, we're going to have 21,000 more on top of the 13. There's going to be 35,000 combines that need to be sold in North America. And that North American market, I've said this before, guys, 18,000, 21,000 used is about all we can do. That seems like it's about the high end. We can't move a whole bunch more than that in North America. I mean, that's North American numbers. You got to know your own numbers in your own market. So be aware of that. Now, Tractor Zoom sent me this, and I got all excited because I just love this data right here. They get reports from 450 auction sale houses. And just so you know, the month of August, I was just reading, they had 500 combine reports for the month of August. I don't know what it is for the whole year, but 500 for the month of August. So they've got a pretty good handle, and it's coast to coast of what's going on. So 2019 is this dark line, and it almost parallels what's going on. But I've had a lot of dealers tell me that, oh, after harvest ends, we just can't sell a combine. Well, if you're looking here, your buyers are out there buying. I mean, this is the price. Sorry, here's the volume. The buyers are out there buying in the fall after harvest. They buy in this time frame. So when I'm looking at this, as far as if I'm a dealer, I know how I want to start displaying my yard. I'm going to put the combines really front and center right now because we know there's peak selling going on at auctions. And I'm also going to ramp up my social media and my cleanliness on the combine and everything I do to advertise those combines. And I'm going to get my salesmen out banging on doors and pulling up every lead because look at the action. There's not every auction buyer is going to buy from a dealership, but there is a lot of guys that will buy from a dealership that said, I'll just buy yours before I'm not even going to go to that auction. Or you second runner up at the auction, he misses and he phones you right back and says, I'll take that thing you had. But you've got to, this tells you when to ramp it up at certain times of the year. And you can see with all of these, so this is over 100 plus horsepower tractors, the fall sales, they just go up and the prices go up in the fall. We get done harvest, the guys got some money to spend. And I'm sure you guys are all finding that this year because it's, for the most part, it's a pretty bang up good year this year. And here's the 4-wheel drive tractors. Look at that. Their average selling price in December is every bit as high as it is in the springtime. So you can move some serious used iron in these months when you think it's off season. Here's the volumes. Look at the volumes of 4-wheel drives that are going every bit the same. So, I mean, maybe guys are thinking December is still getting ready for spring, but who cares? Get their money. If they're willing to spend it, let's get our hand out and get that money and get that deal done. Self-propelled sprayers. I don't watch this too much, but Tractor Zoom sent it to me anyway. So I wanted to throw it up here and present this, but you know, it's all over the board here a little bit to start, and it's a little wonky. So I don't study this as much as I should, but this chart here tells me what's going on at auction. Where are they getting the most amount of money? There's the selling price, and here is the volumes. And you can see they correlate a little bit. The selling price was high, but the volumes weren't as high. So you got to really look at these charts. And I mean, I realize this is from all of North America. So you got guys in Georgia compared to a guy in Washington State. I mean, that's the other side of the world. So it would be nice to know what it is for your state or your region would be about the best you could get. So, and with that, everybody at the Dealer Institute, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And Kim and I talked about it, and then she said, it'll be okay for you to say Merry Christmas, even though you're not supposed to say that anymore. But if there was any a year, I read on a Facebook post the other day that this is the kind of year we got to be thankful for what we have, not for what we want. But with that, Kim, is there questions?
Yes, we do have some. So our first question was, interesting on the class size of combines, acres are not increasing, but crop yields have. Lots of bushels still going through those big combines, correct? So I guess they're getting the usage, still getting the same usage.
Yeah, well, they're getting
acres are down.
Well, the acres are the same. The machine's bigger. We know that they're putting through. They use those class 6 machines used to put through 10 acres an hour. And that study out of the Tim and I looked at from Citibank, Tim from Citibank and I from, I think it was Iowa. Now we're up to putting anywhere from 14 to 16 acres an hour through the machines on average. So yeah, we're putting more volume through per hour And that's why you're seeing these repair bills at 100 hours or 200 hours on a machine, and the repair bill is big. And you have to explain to the customer, yeah, your hours went down, but your volume didn't change. So your repair bill is still going to be, your annual repair bill is going to be 25,000. Why would it be any different than what it was on your other combine, your older combine?
All right. Then our next question is, on one of your slides, you showed 21,000 used combines to sell. And then another slide showed 31,000 used combines to sell and 40,000 to sell. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yep, that's right here. Whoop. Where did I go? 21,000 is my estimation based on how much new we're selling. So these are new sales. If we multiply it by how many trades you guys said you have to take underneath each combine, there's 21,000. The other number is this number. These are actual listings that I've pulled offline, okay, for the US and Canada, which adds up right here, 26,000, 34,000, 35,000. So 26,000 is without the additive, and the 35,000 is with the additive. You don't have to use the additive. Some guys say, I'm not using that. That's okay.
All right. And then where did the 1.65 trades to washout of current inventory come from?
Okay, so from the study last fall, the dealers indicated that there was 3.3 trades off every new one. So I cut that number in half, and I said 1.65 will be the number we use off the used listings. So it's just a number, arbitrary, but I had to find something, and I just cut it in half, and I thought that should be pretty close.
All right. And then where have you gathered this data from? And is it something dealers can get directly?
Yeah, everybody has access to all this stuff if you spend enough time. Association of Equipment Manufacturers, it's public on their website. Tractor Zoom, they send it to me. I think you can sign up and get it. That's where the sales volumes are from the auction sales. Tractor House, I get some data from them guys. What else is on here? Oh, Iron Solutions, this slide here, those are the 4 on this presentation. The problem is I know how busy you guys are, and you won't take the time to, because I spent a lot of time dissecting and putting this all together and marrying it up and laying stuff over top. Nobody has that kind of time. I appreciate it. I worked in your stores. I own stores. I know what kind of time you have. This is the last thing on your mind. You're just trying to hold your head above water right now with what's going on with business. So the other thing I want to say, guys, is all this data is great, but if you don't do anything with it, you got to have data with action. I really encourage you to get a hold of your association, because the cost of doing business study that I used, all this data here at the start, this is for North America. You need to get it by your local region and then start comparing your numbers to your local regional numbers. And I think you'll find that data is a little more pertinent to what you need to know, because the further we can drill down and dissect our data, the better you are for your organization to make the most clear operational changes that you need to make in order to run your store effectively. Because this off the hip decisions is, boy, that's the money is too big now to make off the hip decisions. So data to only have data is useless. You've got to have data with actions. And the deeper you can get into your data, the better you can make actions using that data.
All right. And then a question from me. So we send out a monthly survey to dealers. Our dealer sentiments report is based off of it. And we ask them how they feel about their used equipment inventory. Do they have too much, not enough, or just right? And for the last several months, it's been trending down. No one's saying the net isn't not enough, but it's far lower than it has been. Is that consistent with what you've been hearing and seeing from dealers?
Yeah, I've got lots of dealers. I probably got 9 out of 10 dealers phone me and say they took advantage of 2020 and they shorted the market. They shorted themselves on ordering in 2019 for 2020 products. So they were short of new. The markets got really hot in 2020 and they just pushed their used. Now they didn't make as much money as they wanted to, and they had to lose some money on those pieces. But you know what? The buyers were there at least, and they got rid of that stuff. So they got their inventory down. 1 out of 10 dealers phone me and say, what do you mean 2020 was hot? We didn't sell anything. Well, did you adjust your price and so that you were at fair market value with those trades that have been sitting around for 4 years? Well, we don't adjust the price. They would tell me, if the guy made an offer, we might entertain it. Well, you need to adjust the price ahead of time because you were advertising $100,000 higher than your neighbor for the same machine. Guess who's going to get, you're not even going to get looked at. So you've got to be moving your iron prices with the markets in order to take advantage of when times are really good and the buyers are active. You just can't. I've seen guys with a house saying, I'll just advertise it for $1 million. And if somebody offers me 300,000, I might consider it. Well, your $1 million is just going to chase everybody off. That's essentially what some of those dealers did. But no, that's only 1 out of 10 because I'm driving around the countryside and I'm not supposed to be, but I'm looking at yards that look kind of half empty. It looks good. I know these dealers they should be cleaned out. It's the fall. They should be cleaned out, loading up on doing their pre-sales, getting this new fresh inventory, these trades, fresh trades coming and getting out and banging on doors and let's get it going again. So that's how it should cycle. I'm going to tell you all, I have stopped talking about turns as much as I used to because it doesn't seem like the salesman and even some sales managers don't understand the value of high turns, what the value is to the dealership, but they can comprehend washout. I want to wash out from new to used in 12 months. And I don't mean take the first trade, wait 11 months to sell it, take the next trade and wait 11 months to sell it. And it's 4 or 5 years before we wash out of those 5 trades. I'm saying from brand new to washed out to cash in 12 months, it's possible. And lots of dealers are doing it. So if your neighbor can do it, so can you. You just have to figure out how to do it.
All right. And then is it better to work backwards? So calculate how much used your market can absorb and use that to determine how much new to sell to generate that used?
That's the only way to do it. Unless you're selling under 100 horse tractors, it doesn't matter. But if you're selling combines, high clearance sprayers, 4-wheel drives, just go calculate, take a 5-year average of how many used combines you sell. And if it's 40 per or 50 per location, or let's say 30, so it's easy numbers, 33 for easy numbers, and then divide that. If it's 3.3 trades underneath each one, you can sell 10 new ones. You've got to work from the used to the new. I've had so many dealers do forecasting and they only forecast new sales. And I say, what about your used sales? We don't forecast that. Well, this is why you're backed up in iron.
So with the market sort of correcting some things, or maybe not correcting, but heating up kind of this year and used inventory is getting a little more under control, what do dealers need to do to maintain that and keep in a healthy spot going forward?
Discipline. Like that dealer I told you that would only sell pre-sell 6 machines and no more. Have a discipline. I mean, I'm sure that dealer, if some 100-acre colony walked in there and they had 15-year-old scabby trades, yeah, I can go sell that colony 5 new ones because his trades are going straight to auction. They're not really going to tie up in my used inventory business because he's got junk. But any smart dealer is going to say to that colony, I don't need to sell you 5 new ones. I got 5 1-year-olds I'm going to sell you, and you're going to help me wash out of this problem is what they should be doing. But yeah, just be disciplined and you learn to say no. The most money I ever made in this business is when I said no.
All right. We've got some time for more questions. If anyone has anyone, give you another minute or so.
I'll tell you a story Gord Thompson told me a long time ago, 20 years ago. This was in the 99-2000 correction. Gord said he was really disappointed one day because he lost a deal by $3,000. And yeah, Gord, you should be disappointed when you lose by $3,000. And this was a $200,000, $300,000 deal. The next day he lost a deal by $30,000 or $40,000. And he says, I'm not disappointed at all. When I get beat by 40 grand, I'm not worried one bit about it. He says, that guy can take that trade, that my competitive dealer, and he can load his yard up. I felt good. If I'd have lost by 3,000, I'd be sad. But when you get beat by 30 grand, so what? So what?
All right. Well, no more questions have come through, so we will wrap things up. The presentation and audio will be available on the Farm Equipment website in case you would like to go back and review it or have anyone else at the dealership watch it as well. Watch your email and the Farm Equipment newsletter for more information on when that's available. On behalf of Trent, the Weeder Dealer Institute team, and the Farm Equipment staff, thanks for joining us for today's webinar. When you leave the webinar, you'll be directed to a short survey. Please feel free to reach out and let us know what you thought of the live event and if there's any topics you want us to cover in the future. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.